Hi everyone, this is Renee from Meadowlark Mystic, and I am doing my review for October, the things that I worked with, and then also just sharing some things that I'm working with into November. So the first thing that I wanted to share was some books that I've been reading. The first book is this one, and it is called The Wild Creative by Tammy Lynn Kent. I heard about this book on First Light Mystics channel. She was talking about how she thought it was really good, and I have found that her recommendations usually I jive with them. I like the books that she likes, so I decided to give this a shot, and I really am enjoying it. It's about creating balance and between two different energetic aspects of creativity. Namely masculine and feminine, to be more creative in your life. So I'm not too far in, but I'm really enjoying this. So I'm reading that. And then, well, I guess I'll just go into these. So I'm also, as I spoke about in my other video, I'm also rereading the Voyager Tarot. The reason is because I'm specifically looking for how he speaks about numerology and the numbers in his deck. So I've been reading that. I've also been looking at the guidebook for the Gaian Tarot. She also uses numerology. So for example, the fives: challenge, crisis, conflict, instability, and change. So for me, the two keywords right now for the fives are challenge and change. And so I've just been going through her book, looking at what she says about the minor numbers, and then also going back to the majors. So what I've been doing recently in my tarot studies is talking about or thinking about in my mind the minors and then going back to the majors. So if the fives are about challenge and change, then why would that track back to the five of the teacher, which is the Hierophant, learning and teaching? Well, I think that when you're trying to establish a spiritual practice, you need to sometimes challenge the negative habits of your family or your culture, and sometimes to move beyond the simply material world, you need to challenge that, and the Hierophant can help you do that. Now, the Hierophant can also be somewhat confining, so sometimes a card will have a shadow aspect. And instead of being challenging or an agent of change, it will kind of have the reverse. And you see that in the Emperor, and you can also see that in the Hierophant. So I've been really enjoying the Gaian Tarot and exploring numerology. And then the last guidebook that I've really been enjoying is the Tarot de Paris. And this is by J. Philip Thomas. He also really breaks down the minors and also the majors with numerology. This is an out-of-print deck. I like it I got it because I really like the imagery, but I'm loving this guidebook. I've read it once before, and now I'm going over it more closely to look at his interpretation of numerology in the majors and the minors. So another thing I've been working on, which I'll just show you my notes. So I went through, again, I'm always going through this over and over again, and these might not come up because they're pencil, but I've been thinking about, like I said, the number and then the major and then my keyword. But then if you distill the second half of the greater major arcana, the 11, they distill down to 2, and 12 distills down to 3. And so how does the Hangman associate or track back to the Empress, and how does Death track back to the Emperor, and Temperance track back to the Hierophant? So it's been really interesting, and I've been coming up with keywords that speak to both the major card as well, the greater major and then the lesser majors. And I won't get into that, but so it's been fun to do that. These are just some of the keywords for the lesser majors. So the lesser majors are 1 through 10. The greater majors are 11 through 21. And as you can see, I don't have the Fool on here because that is 0. So anyway, those are just some notes that I've been taking. thought I would share, when I read Tom Benjamin's book, Tarot on Earth, I made myself a mini deck. And this is a deck that does not have the majors. So it just has the quartz and the minors. And these are my drawings of, you know, using my understanding of numerology. And then on the backs, I have a positive, a neutral, and a negative way of interpreting every card. So I've been kind of going over this deck again and seeing if at this point it's still making sense to me, making sense to the way to the way I am interpreting the quartz and to the way I'm interpreting the minors. So for example, with the Queen of Pentacles, if you turn it over, I've got the positive would be her nurturing the physical, the material, the wealth and home. If it's a neutral interpretation, she would simply be preparing the ground for wealth and health. And if it's in the negative aspect, she would be, I have disregard, but actually what I've come to, I need to redo this, is she would be more like stifling or smothering. So her positive is nurturing, her neutral is just simply preparing, and when the Queen of Pentacles is in a very shadow aspect, she's actually smothering. So those are 3 interpretations. And then the same for the King of Pentacles. So for the positive, he'd be protecting. For just the neutral, he'd be teaching. So if you teach, you can teach good things or you can teach bad things. So teaching is more neutral. And then in his negative aspect, he would be exploiting. So in all of it, for this particular deck, energetically, the king for all of the suits has protect, teach, or exploit. And then the queen for all of them, she would have nurture, prepare, or I think smother. Yeah, smother. So it was just an interesting exercise in kind of going through and seeing what I think about every card being strictly numerology, strictly elemental, and then strictly having a positive, a neutral, and a negative interpretation. I've been enjoying this this funny little index card deck that I made. And then I've also been moving forward with this Bota deck. So this, let me get the other cards. This is the deck that I have colored the majors, and I've shared this before. It's hard for me to see with my glasses on. So I colored this deck. It was really fun. So these are the majors. And then moving on to the minors, they are pippish. So this is the ace, and this is the 2, the 3. Again, you can see that I'm really adhering to the numerology. 5s with the pentacle and like the spiral. The 6s, 7, 8. 9 I haven't done yet. 10 I haven't done yet. And this is the page. This is the knight. This is the queen. And this is the king. So it's funny, when I was coloring this deck, I was actually referring in my mind back to that that index card deck that I just showed you about different ways that the quartz can manifest. I've also really been enjoying this deck. This is Black Moon Astrology cards by Susan Sheppard. So while I was watching Lisa from Tarot Alchemist's chakra series, I really started wanting an astrology deck. And she has a really awesome one. I can't remember. I think it's the Zodiac cards, which is, it's really not my art style at all. But I must say that by the end of her series, I really liked the cards. Whereas in the beginning, I just find the kind of human fantasy, beautiful imagery just distracting in the beginning. But by the end of her series, I actually really liked the cards, and I considered getting them. But I wanted to get this deck because it has well, I like collage art, so that was kind of a no-brainer, but it has some more interesting, I like the keywords. So the second house for astrology is owning. The fifth house, which I hate this card, but anyway, is creativity. Like this psycho face and these two, that does not speak creativity to me, but you know, sometimes there's a card in every deck. Jupiter for abundance. Aries, I am. So I don't know if with her cards there's a kind of a statement for all the signs, but there are for this deck. So I like the statements. So Aries is I am, Aquarius is I know, the solar eclipse is revolution, Gemini's I think, Gemini is my moon, Chiron is healing. I really wanted Chiron in the deck. I really, it's an important one for me. Virgos, I analyze. Lunar eclipse, change. I like how this card is a little creepy with the strange statue. Void, of course, moon, and you see that all the time with a V/C. So this is missing. So like you're missing information and not a good time to do stuff. Pisces, I believe. 12th house, escape. Now, obviously, there's more to the 12th house than escape, and Libra is more than I balance. But, so I got this because I really wanted an astrology deck, but I'm finding that I just love it as a straight up oracle, which was very surprising to me. I got it for astrology work, and then I started just using it as an oracle, and I'm really liking it, which is interesting. I did not see that coming. I didn't think that, you know, I know that some people have had issues with some of the printing, like some of it's kind of pixelated. Oh, also I got this deck because it has the North Node and the South Node. So the North Node, life's purpose. The South Node, I can't remember what that one is. Grand Trine, blessings, Saturn, truth, 7th house, 4th house, Leo, I will. Let me see if I can find the South Node. I might have already gone past it. Oh, also I like the Pluto and the Yod. Huh, where's the... Oh, there it is, South Node, life's debts. So I've also been looking into evolutionary astrology and the importance of the nodes, South Node and North Node, and also the importance of where Pluto is in the chart. So this deck kind of ticked all the boxes. It was collage, it had those nodes, it had the houses, it had those statements. So I'm really liking it. And this is by Susan Sheppard. And then the last thing I wanted to share was... So I made a majors, well, this is, so I've been making my own oracle deck, which is right over here to the right, and it has a lot of cards in it. But then I decided to try to do a majors, and so I'm just going to quickly go through these. So this is the Fool, which really reminds me of Pagan Otherworlds, because they have that card, the Seeker, that's going through the stars. This is the Magician. I think this is by William Blake. This is the High Priestess. Empress. Oops, get my big thumb out of the way. This is the Emperor. And again, the Emperor is my birth card, so I kind of wanted to give it a female twist. This is the Hierophant. This is the Lovers. I don't know why, but when I saw this card, it immediately, I thought of the Lovers. This is the Chariot. This is Strength. The Hermit. The Wheel. Fortune. Justice. The Hanged Man. Death. I love this one. Temperance. The Devil. the Tower. This is Klimt. The Star. She's like holding those little birds. The Moon. The Sun. Judgment. And the World. So that is my majors out that I made out of, repurposed art. So that's that. And then I think that's it. So I've actually not used the Halloween Tarot as much as I thought I was going to in October. You know, I just use a bunch of decks. If you follow me on Instagram, you can see that I'm kind of all over the place. But I've been using, gosh, I don't even know. But I've been using this Black Moon Astrology cards way more than I thought I would. Oh, the one thing I wanted to talk about. So, I don't know if any of you remember, but I read this book by Caitlin Matthews. It's an old book, and it's called The Elements of the Goddess. It's also small. And in the back of the book, I was super excited about these, the elements of the goddess. So there's 9 different elements that she talks about. Oops. And then they kind of associate with each other. Anyway, so they're 9 different elements. There's the energizer, the measurer, the protector, the initiator, the challenger, the deliverer, the weaver, the preserver, and the empower. And then these are all just kind of in the different orders. So I really loved that way of accessing the archetype of the goddess with those keywords. And so what I did was I took the goddess cards out of the Moon Oracle by Caroline Smith and John Astrop, and I put them with those keywords, those 9 kind of emanations of the goddess. There's 12 in this, so that left 3 actually share the energizer. Lilith, Freya, and Venus all share the energizer in different aspects. So Lilith would be the shadow aspect, Freya is the neutral, and Venus would be like the more positive aspect. Although you can really argue for any of them. So I'm hoping that that will help me use this Oracle deck a little bit more frequently. I haven't decided if I'm going to write the keywords on those goddess cards or not, but it's really kind of exciting. I really was surprised at how much I did not like. I guess I should just get it out, but it's gonna make a mess. Ugh, those keywords are actually in the box, so you can see it. Like, okay, I really did not like the write-up of the goddesses. I found it very like, let me just go to one that I really didn't like. Of course, Ishtar. So for Ishtar, I mean, she's a really powerful goddess. The key phrase is be malleable. I just found that really shallow, and I didn't like it. So, I mean, they call Ishtar was one of the most powerful goddesses in the Assyrian pantheon, said by some to be the daughter of Sin, and by others the daughter of Anu. Some regarded her as a war goddess, and some regarded her as a goddess of love. You often see that when the goddess mythology is starting to transition from one to another. In one, she will be the goddess of war, and then the other, she'll be the goddess of love. I think that also happens in other pantheons. Anyway, I didn't like the way the treatment of the goddess archetypes in this book. I found it really shallow, so I decided to put the keyword emanations from this book. And I can't remember which one I chose for Ishtar now, but it was definitely not something as shallow as Be Malleable. So I just wanted to share that. I'm still working on it and working through what I'm going to do with this Moon Oracle. I did go through an entire moon cycle with the cards, pulling the cards by their astrological moon sign, and I don't know, it didn't really didn't really do anything for me. So I'm still trying to work with this deck and figure out if I can jive with it. Okay, so that was my wrap up for October. I'll just be doing much of the same thing moving forward. I did get a strong indication of this card came to my mind. I did not pull it. It just came to my mind. So I sought it out, got it out of my Spirit of the Wheel deck, and have it on my altar. And then I pulled these two. I always pull these two decks in combination. I pulled Odin for Psychic Insight and then Ancestral Wisdom. So I thought that was pretty powerful. And then the two cards moving forward for November are Health, and this one is Truth. And last month was Fear and Change. So this month is Health and Truth. So obviously, healing is going to be really important this month. And also, I thought was funny, I pulled these two cards for this month. So this is Blackberry, which I have keywords written on the bottom. So the Blackberry is about boundaries and the cat is about defense. So I found that interesting. I think my immune system is going to need some tuning up for this winter season. So those are the two that's the animal and plant druid decks. All right, that is my wrap up for October and what I'm up to in November. I hope you're doing well wherever in the world you are, and I will talk to you again soon. Bye.